You know it's time. It is time for Joe Smokey Foss, the Marine Ace of Aces. Welcome, YouTube, to another episode. Today's word of the day is going to be quack. And you know why. Let's get started on the video. Quack, quack.
All right, if you've been watching my channel for a minute, you know what happens when our hero has bad eyesight. Let's see what happens when they have better than 20/20 vision.
What do you mean better than 20/20?
Foss, aka Smokey, America's first ace of aces from World War II. Ladies and gentlemen, we've already talked about John Basilone, the legendary Marine Corps machine gunner, and his heroic actions on Iwo Jima and Henderson Airfield, where he earned the Medal of Honor. But what we haven't talked about is that while John Basilone was on the ground at night, repelling wave after wave of Japanese soldiers, there was another group of heroes that defended the airfield from above during the day, the legendary Marine Corps Cactus Air Force. Like all the other Marines on Guadalcanal, they were outgunned, outnumbered, and somehow, in typical Marine Corps fashion, they managed to win anyways. And they did it by rallying around one of the greatest fighter pilots in American history, and somehow you've probably never even heard of him. Well, you're gonna learn today, right after a word from our sponsor.
Delete me.
What are you doing with my MP5?
This is my MP5.
What am I supposed to use for home defense?
Do you want the 12 gauge or the 300?
I love you.
I know.
This video is brought to you
I
by
love
Delete
this
Me.
so
Okay,
much.
Super simple business model. You give them money, they turn around and they make sure that online data brokers are not
You
selling
show the
your
guns for
personal
tax
information
purpose.
online. Okay, here's the deal. Pretty much anytime you use a free service on the internet and you click that little box that says I agree to the terms and conditions, you've basically just agreed to allow them to harvest as much of your personal information as humanly possible.
The way his
They then
wife
turn around and sell that to
appears in
online
these
data
like
brokers, and that's how they
early
can afford
stuff
to
is
offer you a
great.
free service. But when you have Delete Me, they go and they monitor all of these online data brokers for your personal information, and then if they find it, they submit all the opt-out forms on your behalf, so they have to take down and stop selling that information. So when you buy Delete Me, you're not actually buying anything, you're just buying your way out of all the negative consequences of all the free shit that you've already gotten. And because they continue to monitor those data brokers, you're buying yourself out of all the future negative consequences of all the free shit that you haven't even gotten yet. If you want to Delete Me or try, there's going to be a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video.
And there's always gonna be a reason for Delete Me.
April 17th, 1915, when Mary and Frank Foss give birth to their first son, Joe Foss, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Growing up, Joe had a younger brother and sister, and they grew up on a 120-acre farm inside of an old farmhouse that had no electricity, no running water, and he was dirt poor pretty much the entire time. But it was the Midwest in the early 1900s, so everybody else was dirt poor too, so he never really noticed. Growing up, Joe and his siblings' lives were pretty much school, hunting, fishing, and working the entire time. And Joe's dad taught him absolutely everything. Joe said he was the best shot he'd ever seen in his entire life, and that was after serving throughout World War II. And as he continued to get older, in the eyes of Joe, his dad got more and more awesome as he discovered the incredible, impeccable dad lore that his dad had before his mom made him settle down and become a farmer. Joe
And there's always that one moment when you realize your parents are more than just your parents, and you're like, what?
Joe's dad, Frank Foss, was an absolute wild man before his mom made him settle down, and despite that, he still kind of was a crazy guy. You gotta remember, this is the early 1900s. People don't have TVs. If you've seen a boxing match, it was probably in person, and it was probably at like the state fair or a traveling carnival or something. Well, Frank Foss, Joe's dad, would always go and compete at every local event for boxing and wrestling. When I say wrestling, I don't mean like he put on a singlet and tried to pin another guy's shoulder blades to the ground like you think of wrestling at like high school or collegiate level. No, this was old school catch wrestling, which is more akin to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where they're trying to tap each other out with arm bars and chokeholds. And Joe's dad, Frank, never lost. And as he gets older, he starts to realize like, oh, all the other kids at school, their dads aren't gigantic badasses. What's going on here? So he starts asking Frank and Mary questions. Come to find out, Frank traveled the country with the Ringling Circus performing back in the day. After that, he was a conductor for the railroad. He'd also been interested in aviation since it was invented, and had survived several plane crashes, and Joe said he was the best mechanic alive. The guy could fix and do anything, and he worked his ass off 24/7, and he was Joe's absolute hero. Because his dad was interested in aviation, when Joe was 12 years old, he took all of his kids out to a Charles Lindbergh air show, and that got Joe interested in it as well. Then when he was 16, Dad had saved up enough money for him and Joe to go up in a plane with legendary South Dakota pilot Clyde Ice, and that sealed the deal. Joe wanted to be a pilot.
Damn. It's like, son, you have two choices. You follow in my footsteps, or you become a farmer. That's very cool, though, that his dad was like, you know what, I'm gonna show you my passions. And then the kid was like, yeah, your passions are pretty dope. I want.
Several years after that, in 1933, Joe is 18 years old, and there is an enormous thunderstorm. The rain is coming down so heavy that you can't even see your hand in front of your face. Joe's dad, Frank, gets caught out in this storm, and he's driving along in his car, just trying to make it home, probably driving pretty safe, and for some reason, his car just stalls out. What Frank doesn't know is the car stalled out because he drove through a puddle, and inside of that puddle is a downed power line. So when he opens the door, grabs his flashlight, and steps out to investigate and try to fix his car, because he's an incredible mechanic, he is electrocuted and killed almost immediately. At 18 years old, Joe Foss has just lost his dad, his best friend, and his hero all at once. Despite that, he does exactly what he thinks his dad would have done. He becomes a man of the house, he starts running the farm, he works 2 jobs, and somehow manages to still finish and graduate high school his senior year. Despite managing all of this, basically taking over his dad's entire life, he still is aspiring to be a pilot, so he tries to go to college. He gets accepted, but he makes it through the first semester, and he can't manage it. He can't make enough money, help raise his family, and do college all at the same time, so he's forced to drop out, and the dude just goes to work. Every moment he is not sleeping, he is working his ass off. By 1936, 3 years after his dad passed away, he had made enough money to pay off his family farm. And by that point, his younger brother was old enough to at least manage the farm by himself to the point of breaking even without the mortgage hanging over his head, so he turns the entire farm over to his brother and his mother, and he goes off to college.
Damn. At least he had family that could still let him go for his dreams. Because, like, that's how your dreams freaking die, man. That's how you end up getting stuck and not being able to actually pursue what you want. It's like, not everyone is fortunate to have someone else that can help with that burden. That's rough. That is a rough story.
And this kind of sets the tone for the rest of Joe's life. He is the old guy right out of the gate. He is a 21-year-old freshman in college. All the other kids are 17, 18 years old. And here's Joe, 21-year-old man, already been through the ringer in life, but here he is. So he makes the best of it. He tries to, follow in his dad's footsteps. He gets involved in boxing. He plays football. He's not super great at either one, but he does pretty well. While he's doing that, he's working at the college as a janitor to pay off his tuition, and he's taking all of his extra money and spending that on flying lessons so he can learn to become a pilot.
Damn.
So he goes,
man. Nowadays, you really don't see as many people putting in so much effort into, like, chasing their dreams.
He graduates college, he becomes a pilot, he's got like 100 hours of flight time. In 1939, he joins the civilian pilot program, racks up even more flight time, and then in 1940, it's looking like we're gonna go off to war, so Joe is figuring like, okay, well, if I don't volunteer now, I'm gonna end up getting drafted, so I might as well volunteer, and that's gonna give me the best shot I can get at going off to become a fighter pilot, because that's what he wants to do. Not only is Joe gonna volunteer to be a fighter pilot, he is going to volunteer to be a fighter pilot in the United States Marine Corps, because he knows that the Marine Corps always gets into the action first. The problem is, in order to do that, he has to make it all the way to Minneapolis, Minnesota from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So
it's like, well, my dad was crazy. I might as well follow in the footsteps. Get to the action first. It is the most experienced, but it's also the most dangerous. So it's like, damn, you gotta have balls for that.
he hitchhikes the entire way there with $5 in his pocket. So Joe ends up making his way all the way to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the week that he gets there, there was 28 men volunteering to be fighter pilots for the Marine Corps, and only 2 of them are going to get selected, and the 2 selected are Joe Foss and Ralph Gunderball, a man that would go on to become one of the legendary Flying Tigers under Claire Chennault. So Joe's thinking he's got the job, he's super pumped, the recruiter tells him to show back up in a couple weeks, so he's like, cool, hitchhikes all the way back home to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. A couple weeks later, he hitchhikes hitchhikes back when the recruiter told him to. Unfortunately, Joe does not have the job yet. He has to go through elimination training, which is they've basically taken the 16 best candidates and they're going to put them through the ringer and only select the top 8. But Joe, with 100 hours of flight time under his belt, nails it and he gets the job. So now Joe's got the job, but he's got to go to Pensacola, Florida to go through flight training for the United States Marine Corps Aviation Program, and they're not going to send him there, so he hitchhikes from Minneapolis all the way to Pensacola, Florida. Once he gets to flight school, he plays dumb. Like, he's already got a target on his back because he's the old guy. They're looking to eliminate him right out of the gate. What he doesn't want to do is tell the instructors, like, hey, I've got over 100 hours of flight time. I know what I'm doing, because then it's going to turn into the whole, like, oh, no, you think you know what you're doing. You
That is smart, man. That is so smart. Because, like, my parents are both accountants, and I had accounting in university. I had to take it for 1 year. And I already knew accounting, so the first test that we got, I basically solved it using the knowledge that my parents imparted upon me. At which point, I got the equivalent of an F. I didn't pass the test because that wasn't within the scope of what was being taught in that test. It was above and beyond. Even though it was correct, they were like, nah, you did too much. So that was how I learned that I shouldn't do more than what is asked of me. It was a very important lesson looking back at how society works and how jobs work and everything. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess. Thank you.
Don't actually know what you're doing. You need to learn everything from me the way I do it the right way. So he just plays dumb the entire time. You know, like the officers are training him. They're like, this is a rudder. That's a propeller. He's like, ooh, ah, yeah, wow, I'm learning so much the entire time. Regardless, he crushes the entire flight program, ends up graduating. After graduating, Joe's allowed to request any type of service that he wants. So he requests to be a fighter pilot and is immediately denied because he's apparently too old, being like 25, 26 years old at this point in time.
I'm old, not obsolete.
So while he's apparently too old to become a fighter pilot, he's also one of the best pilots that they have, so they just immediately make him an instructor at Pensacola right after he graduates the program. Shortly after that...
Man, that sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong, some people are like nice about it, but instructor is usually where you go on retirement. It's usually where you go at the end, not at the start. It's like, yeah.
Japan ends up attacking Pearl Harbor. At this point, Joe realizes shit's gonna hit the fan. They're going to war. He does not want to be stuck in Pensacola, Florida, being a flight instructor. So he starts volunteering for anything and everything he could possibly get into. And the first thing that accepts him is a photo reconnaissance unit. So Joe goes into this camera program and he quickly realizes that most of these guys aren't actually aviators. A lot of them are professional photographers and camera people, and they know cameras inside and out already, which is the majority of what he needs to learn for the course. And he can't keep up. There's so much to learn with these cameras. He ends up training with these cameras 16 hours a day so that he can graduate through this course at the top of his class. After graduating, he ends up getting promoted to first lieutenant and shipped out to San Diego, California, presumably to go to war here pretty soon. The obvious problem...
That is crazy. This man was like, I will take any freaking job that gets me closer to where I want to be. It kind of reminds me, like, when I started out, right, I wanted to be a game developer initially, and they weren't accepting anything regarding game development in my country, so the only thing you could do was have an entry level as a QA. So I did that before I learned about all the nepotism. And I pieced out, but he was like, yeah, let me just hardcore do that for many years, despite like all the hardships and everything. Kudos to him, man.
Being he wants to be a fighter pilot and not a camera guy, but anything that'll get him closer to combat is apparently the right way to go. But once he does get to San Diego, California, he does get some good news because his college sweetheart, June, had actually taken a job at a medical center in San Diego, California, knowing that most Marines end up there eventually, and she tracks down Joe and they end up getting married.
Did I find you?
What?
And while that's going on, Joe is going to work every day with this photo reconnaissance unit, getting ready for war, and he has to fly over and watch all the carrier-based fighter pilots training and learning how to take off and land on an aircraft carrier, and he's jealous. That's what he wants to do. So on his own time, he goes to the naval command of the actual program and is like, hey, I want to learn how to do this too. Put me through your program. The Naval Command is like, absolutely not. We don't have enough time to train our own Navy guys. We're not going to be training a Marine on the side. But Joe's not taking no for an answer, so he goes back every single day bugging this Naval Command. And finally, the commander's like, you know what? Fuck it. I can't get anybody willing to do funeral service duty. So if you want to go ahead, work your job, do funeral service duty, and have time to go through my course, I'll let you go through.
Oh my god, dude! Freaking workaholic mode. Okay.
I'll sneak you in. Now, to most people, that seems like a lot, but to Joe, this is just Tuesday. The guy's been working 3 jobs every day of his life since he was 10 years old. This is nothing. Not only does he go through and graduate the Naval Fighter Pilot program, he sets the gunnery record for the entire course. So at 27 years old, Joe Foss has basically just brute forced his way into being a fighter pilot.
For real,
he's
though.
too old to do it. He's immediately promoted to captain and assigned as the head of a squadron in VMF-1. And VMF-1 is headed to the Pacific. Where in the Pacific, he has no idea because everything's a big secret. They're worried about spies. It's wartime. Everybody's paranoid. So he's basically just told, like, kiss your wife goodbye, get your ass on the boat, we're going.
Damn.
So they're making their way into the Pacific Theater on this boat, and after a while, they're almost there. He finally gets briefed on where they're going and what they're doing. Joe and his men are going into Guadalcanal. Guadalcanal was recently just captured by the United States Marine Corps from the Imperial Japanese, and the Imperial Japanese want it back because on Guadalcanal is Henderson Airfield, and this airfield is the most important airfield on the planet because the Japanese need it so that they can forward their objective and attack Australia, and America needs it to defend Australia and attack the Japanese. This is the most important island on the planet at this point in time, and Joe Foss and his men have to go in and defend it. A couple days later, October 9th, 1942, they wake Joe and his men up.
He literally got sent exactly where he wanted. After a big roundabout, he got sent where he wanted. He wanted right into action. He wanted to be there. And he worked his ass off, man. Like, this is inspiration. This is a story that should inspire people in pursuing their goals and doing stuff.
At midnight, it's
Sorry for pausing again, but like, there are so many people that say, oh, I can't do that. Oh, no, I can't do that. It's like, oh, I wish I could. It's like, fucking work your ass off. It's hard. It's very hard, but well, if he can do it, you can do it. One would assume so, right? What are we watching? We're watching Marine Ace of Aces. Let's go back to the story.
pitch black outside on the ocean, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? And command tells Joe, we're gonna have to catapult you off right here, right now. You're gonna have to fly into Henderson Airfield and land. The Japanese Navy has the entire island surrounded, and we can't punch through with our Navy. This ship is gonna get sunk if we try to get any closer, and if we launch you off during the day, they're gonna be shooting at you the entire time. This is the best bet. Okay, and just so we're on the same page, this is kind of a big deal. Like, this is very dangerous.
That is very dangerous,
Wildcat fighter that they're going to be flying is not a nighttime airplane. It doesn't have nighttime navigation equipment. It wasn't designed to fly at night, navigate at night, land at night, and now they're just going to yeet his ass off a ship surrounded by the enemy. He's going to have to fly sneakily into the island and land on an airstrip with a terrain that he's not even familiar with. But hey,
that is crazy.
So it's exactly what Joe does. Gets launched off the ship, takes off, makes it to Henderson Field, lands. He's got 11 other men with him. The next morning, all the pilots that they're relieving are super pumped to leave. Joe, being the commander, like, goes to the veterans that have been fighting in combat and is like, hey, would you mind giving us and the guys some pointers? You know, we're new, we're fresh, we haven't been in combat yet. You guys are the veterans here. How about you know, stick around for a little bit, train us and help us out? And they pretty much look Joe in the eye and tell him it doesn't matter. You guys will all be veterans in a day or two anyways. And they're absolutely right.
That is so true. There's nothing that really prepares you. There's nothing that really prepares you for it, man. You kind of just like, you can have it down in your mind. You can have like everything, all the fury. It kind of goes out your brain. It's just survival instinct at that point.
Because Guadalcanal in October of 1942 is absolute hell on earth. Every single night, the Japanese are coming out of the jungle, launching just wave after wave of attacks. They're hitting the bases with naval gunfire, and then during the day, they're sending massive fleets of fighters and bombers to strafe and bomb the airfield 24/7, all day, every day. It is a fight. And the first couple days for Joe and presumably his men is absolutely horrible. They can't sleep at night. There's explosions going off 24/7. They're getting rattled left and and right, just sitting there in their tents, hoping that they don't catch a stray round or a stray bomb from the enemy. They can't do anything. They can't sleep. Joe's starting to wonder to himself, you know, like, what the fuck did I get myself into? I very clearly made a horrible miscalculation. I shouldn't be here. This is a mistake. The next day, October 13th, 1942, Joe's up. It's
understandable.
his turn back. The Marines have been fighting off land forces all night long. Daylight is here, and there is a formation of 32 Japanese bombers and Zeros coming in, and Joe has to go up, leading a flight of 7 Wildcats to intercept. So Joe and his men get up in the air. They're fighting with the Japanese. Joe hones in on this little formation of 4 Japanese Zeros. He's already up above him, so he goes and dives, shoots down, blows one to pieces, dives right past the other 3. Big problem now, he's got 3 Zeros on his tail. So now Joe's shitting his pants. He shouldn't be here. He's got 3 Zeros on his tail. They're shooting at him. He can hear the bullets hitting his plane, and he's like, this is it. I'm gonna fucking die. But hey, you gotta fight till the end, right? So Joe just keeps trying to lose these planes. He's got Marines shooting anti-aircraft fire, whizzing past his plane, trying to hit the Zeros. He's trying not to get hit by that. He's got the Zeros behind him, shooting at him. It's just complete chaos, and
it's like, what am I doing here? Please, just let me live. Absolutely wild. Like, just imagining it, like, you're trying not to get PvP'd by your own allies, and you're also trying to not die from the people actually hunting you down, and you're like, what did I get myself into? I did not realize.
Joe is right in the middle of it. Eventually, Joe's engine ends up getting hit and his engine's down. He's losing control of the plane. He's getting hit left and right, so he just lines it up with the airfield, and he's gonna have to land this thing at full speed. He's not gonna slow down to give the Zeros time to hit him and make an easy target. So Joe lines up. There's still flak fire whizzing past him, shooting at the Zeros, and he lands on the airfield at full speed, doesn't stop, drives straight through the airfield and crashes it into a grove of palm trees. So Joe, obviously kind of rattled, just crashed a plane at full speed into some palm trees, kind of like comes to his senses and is like, okay, all right, I think I'm good. I took the camera course. Camera guy never gets hurt, right? Okay, I'm fine.
I take the camera course. Oh, storytelling is on point as always, man.
Completely unscathed after crashing this plane, climbs out of his plane and starts walking back to the airfield. He gets there. Everybody is shocked that he survived. They didn't even bother to go check on him because they thought for sure he had died. And the entire time he was walking back to the airstrip, he's thinking to himself, like, I gotta get the fuck off this island. This sucks. I made a horrible miscalculation. But as he comes back up, people see that he survived and they start cheering and clapping and patting him on the back. The Japanese planes have retreated and he has shot down one of the superior Japanese Zero fighters and lived to tell the tale. He's a hero. The mechanics go, they check on his plane, they count over 250 bullet holes in his plane.
Christ!
And he still managed to crash land the thing into a tree and walk out completely unscathed. It is apparent to everybody but Joe at this point that he is in fact the main character. He's the camera guy that never gets hurt. He is in fact wearing the plot armor. And as Joe's like looking around, still in shock, shaking hands, getting patted on the back, he's looking and it's all 17 and 18-year-old kids that are pumped because he actually pulled it off. He survived. He shot down a Japanese Zero, and Joe comes to the realization that he's got to be the main character too. He doesn't just see a bunch of other Marines.
Aww.
He sees his little brother and his little sister in the faces of those 17 and 18-year-old kids that are now looking up to him the same way that his siblings did after his dad died. Looking back on
becoming a role
Joe
model.
said, and I quote, "The look I saw in them, they were depending on me. I've never gotten over it. I just figured I got to lead. These kids are going to depend on me, and I've got the experience. I can lead these kids, and we're going to go. If they want to go that bad, let's go."
Let's fucking go.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, that is a feel, alright. That is definitely a feel. It's like realizing that you're actually someone's role model, that people are looking up to you, that you're supposed to be there to lead and to help and assist. The role model for having plot armor. I mean, you know, how it happens is irrelevant. It just happened, right?
And with that, it's no longer Joe Foss's goal to simply survive and make it off this island. It is now his goal to fucking win. If he could be the man of the house at 18, he's gonna be the man of the sky over Henderson Field at 27.
Honestly, like, the way he said it is very true. When you stop just surviving and doing something for yourself and for your own benefit, and you go to the point where you're doing something for someone else, where you're trying to be a team player, you're trying to like get everyone right to survive with you, that's when you kind of like definitely mature in my eyes. It's like you grow as an individual and turn into an actual leader.
The next day, October 14th, Japanese show up again. So does Joe, shoots down another zero, crash lands his plane again. 3 days later, October 18th, Japanese show up again. Joe shows up again too. This time he shoots down 2 zeros and a bomber, becoming an ace in his first 9 days on Guadalcanal.
Let's go!
But it's not just Joe doing it all alone.
He
All
didn't
the other
crash that
Wildcats
time?
that Joe is leading into combat adopt the nickname Foss's Flying Circus, and they are fucking up the Japanese planes. 2 days later, October 20th, Joe goes up, shoots down another 2 zeros. 3 days after that, October 23rd, he goes up and shoots down 4 zeros in a single run. And now, after a whopping 2 weeks on the island, Joe's really starting to get his feet underneath him. He knows what he needs to be doing. The Wildcats have 6 50 caliber machine guns on the front, but the problem is you run out of ammunition too quick, and Joe is a hyper-aggressive, super accurate gunner. He likes to get
Hyper-aggressive, super accurate, runs out of ammo. I'm sorry, but I think he's just trigger happy. I'm a bad shot. I know that me running out of ammo is because I'm a fucking bad shot. It's not that I end up using all my ammo.
get right on top of his prey before he shoots him down. And if he has 6 guns firing all at once, he's gonna burn through his ammo too quick, and he's gonna waste too many bullets on a singular plane. So he actually goes and has the mechanics remove 2 of the 6 machine guns on his plane so that he can conserve ammo while shooting down as many planes as possible.
So that's what it meant by him being accurate. He means that because he has too many guns, he's not like, they're all firing and some are missing because he's very in your face melee. That's cool. That is cool. The fact he's adapting his aircraft to his style and to how he is as a person, and the fact that they're going with it and actually accepting it, that's crazy. Can you imagine now the bureaucracy of that? Freaking having to go through 10 paperworks and go through 10 different people to get it approved and get something done. That would be, ugh.
And by this point, the Japanese are getting pissed. They have the entire island surrounded. The Marines are cut off. They shouldn't be able to keep resisting to the degree that they are, but the Marines are somehow pulling it off. Every night, Marines like John Basilone are out on the front lines, repelling waves of Japanese soldiers that are coming in from the jungle. And every day, Joe Foss and the Flying Circus and the rest of the Cactus Air Force are up overhead, out fighting and outmaneuvering the Japanese planes. The Marines are running so low on supplies that they're actually sending crews out to find all the downed airplanes on the island, to strip out all the ammunition, all the usable parts, and siphon all the gas, trying to keep as many Wildcats in the air as possible. Whenever a Japanese sniper manages to slip past the Marine Corps' front line and open fire on the pilots and the mechanics that are working on the planes at night, the pilots grab their guns and go out in the jungle and hunt down the sniper, including Joe. Joe said he never actually got one of the snipers, but on one occasion, he did see a mechanic have a near miss, and the mechanic got pissed off, stormed into the jungle with nothing but his K-bar, and came back about 45 minutes later covered in blood with a fancy new Japanese rifle.
Oh my fucking god! Savage!
Are easy to hide. They're on jam and they never run out of bullets.
The Japanese military is throwing absolutely everything they have at the Marines on Guadalcanal, and they just can't fucking break them. And because of it, the Japanese are getting absolutely pissed. On October 25th, the Japanese decide that is the day. This is the day that they are finally going to take Guadalcanal back and defeat the United States Marine Corps.
Oh yeah, just like as a clarification for like people on YouTube before you lynch me, I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. I don't know guns and I don't know airships, okay? So when I say that he super accurate and I make fun of it, it's a lighthearted joke. I don't mean it seriously, okay? So don't get pissed off at that. I completely believe that they are ammo hungry.
On October 24th at 9:30 p.m., the entire Japanese fleet opens up on Henderson Airfield with naval gunfire, just full broadside attacks, and it goes all night long. The Japanese are dropping star clusters over the airfield, lighting the entire thing up. Joe said it looked like broad daylight on Henderson Airfield all night long so that the Japanese planes flying overhead could accurately drop bombs. The only thing the Marines could do was just hunker down and take this absolute beating. They're blowing up the airfield. There's craters and potholes all over it. They're hitting planes that are on the ground. They're hitting infrastructure. Men are getting killed left and right. And all they can do is sit there and tough it out. And this goes on non-stop until 4:30 a.m. the next morning. At this point, from the aerial view, there's no movement going on Henderson Field. All the Marines are hunkered down. So they fly over, don't see any movement. They think they've killed absolutely everybody. So they send up a bunch of Japanese planes, and these guys are thinking they're just going to land on the airfield and take it over because they've already killed everybody. Unfortunately for them, the Cactus Air Force still has 8 Wildcats capable of flying, and Joe Foss to lead them.
Oh my God!
My turn.
So Joe Foss and the Flying Circus get in their Wildcats. They go to take off. The airfield is so damaged that 2 of them end up crashing and don't make it into the air. It is now Joe and 5 other Wildcats going toe-to-toe with the Japanese Air Force. Joe gets up in the air, immediately shoots down 2 Zeros. He's out of ammo, circles back, lands, and it is like a NASCAR pit stop. They get him more gas, more ammo.
Are you kidding me? That madman! Landing, like, not only taking off from, like, a potholed airfield, landing it after because he's out of ammo and he's like, I need more. And then going back out. Holy fucking shit, man.
He's back up in the air, goes back up and shoots down 3 more, becoming the Marine Corps' first ever ace in a day. The rest of the Flying Circus manages to shoot down 14 more planes, sending the Japanese packing for the day. After repelling the Japanese, they get a little bit of a break at this point in time because the Japanese kind of have to take a step back and figure out what the fuck they're gonna do next. They've just thrown absolutely everything they had at the Marines and they threw it right back. And unbeknownst to Joe back home, he is now one of the most high-profile men in this entire war, shooting down 15 enemy planes in 12 days. After the Japanese get refitted, they attack again on November 7th. Joe and the Flying Circus go up to intercept again. Joe manages to shoot down 1 Zero and 2 recon planes. The rest of the Flying Circus shoots down the 4 other Zeros, wiping out the entire flight. As Joe circles back around and as he starts approaching, he sees parachutes, and as he gets closer, he realizes there's no pilots inside of these parachute rigs. It's just the rig itself floating down towards the ocean, and he has no idea where the pilots went. And he's like, okay, what's going on? And then he gets a little bit closer to another parachute and the pilot's still inside of it, at which point he witnesses the pilot unhook himself from the rig and plummet to his death. And Joe, some farm kid from South Dakota, has no understanding of the Japanese Bushido code of honor that these guys are operating under. The whole, like, you know, it's better to die in combat than be captured or to lose. So he just doesn't even know what to make of it.
Holy shit, that must be traumatic and weird to experience.
So after witnessing
I like how I said weird and the video also said weird. God damn it. That is weird though, to experience it firsthand like that. And also, do they have like automatic parachuting systems? I'm very confused because I'm like, okay, if that is their code and that is the way that they are, why do they even have automatic parachuting systems? I'm like so confused by that. Like, just you open it and jump out. Why didn't they just go down with a plane then? I'm like, because they were like, I probably survive with a plane. I'm just like, what?
That he's like not knowing what to think, and then he like finally like snaps back to reality of like, okay, but fuck, back to the airfield. Okay, so he turns around, all the other planes in the Flying Circus are gone. It's just him out there by himself, and he's like, oh shit, I'm way far away from Guadalcanal. I'm way out here chasing down that last recon plane. So he starts making his way back to the island. He's running low on gas.
He's running out of fuel.
Good. Then he ends up running into this enormous rain squall, and the rain is so thick that it ends up stalling out his engine. So now Joe's kind of shitting his pants. He's still way far away from Henderson Field. He's flying over the ocean. There's like several other smaller islands from the Solomons on either side. And he's like, he said in an interview later in life that he was like trying to rock the plane forward, you know, like a little kid does with a push toy or something. Just like, come on, fuck. And he just comes to the realization he's not gonna fucking make it.
Damn.
He ends up crashing the plane into the ocean, gets tangled up in his cockpit, grabs his Mae West life vest, deploys it. He's fucking tangled up in the cockpit. So now the life vest is trying to pull his neck up when his foot's tangled up in the cockpit. He almost drowns. He's like 30 feet underwater at this point. He finally breaks free, floats to the top, coughing up a bunch of seawater. And the worst part of all, Joe, farm kid that grew up in South Dakota, doesn't know how to fucking swim.
Definitely dead.
What? And the next best part is
Of course. Oh, the fact that he took classes in how to fly, in photography, in survival. Not even once did people be like, yeah, we should probably teach them how to swim as well. They'd cut the shoots if they were likely to be captured. If they could land and they keep fighting, they'd land. Okay. So they basically made the call after because like they parachuted out and then they were like, oh yeah, we're probably not gonna be able to live and we're likely getting captured. Fascinating. Terrifying and like very weird to like think about it from an outsider perspective, but fascinating nonetheless. Fights over the sea and can't swim. I know, right? The guts on that person to go out every single day with your plane knowing that you're gonna crash them, and despite not knowing how to swim, not letting that fear take you over.
it's shark infested water.
Oh, dead, definitely.
So at this point, Joe
Oh my god, great. So he crashed into an ocean with sharks, not knowing how to swim. Lovely. Yeah, that's one day he's gonna remember for the rest of his life.
Joe Foss is just absolutely shitting his pants, floating out in the ocean, can't swim. There's sharks fucking everywhere, or at least that's what he thinks. So he's trying to figure out like, oh shit, I might be bleeding. I don't know. Sharks are attracted to blood. How can I make the sharks not eat me right now? So he has his like little survival kit attached to his Mae West life vest, and inside of it is a water purification kit. So he starts taking the water purification kit and putting it into the ocean water, hoping that that's gonna like trick the sharks or obscure the smell of blood if he has any, or deter the sharks somehow. But apparently it works because he doesn't end up getting attacked by a shark.
I am a nice shark, not a mindless eating machine.
He does, however, sit
Probably
there floating
too close
in the
for
ocean
the
with
shark.
his life vest for hours, praying his ass off. And apparently it works because the plot armor kicks in, and of all the things to happen, a Belgian missionary on a nearby Solomon Island of Maleta ended up seeing his plane go down and convinced the local indigenous people to go out in canoes and try to find him. So like 3 hours go by, Joe is just floating in the ocean. It's now dark, it's nighttime, and off in the distance, Joe can hear people speaking, but it's not in English, so naturally he just assumes that it's the Japanese looking for him, so he doesn't try to draw any attention to himself. He just kind of like tries to like stay quiet and small in his life vest, and then after a while he finally hears somebody say out in English, it was the Belgian missionary, point the flashlight over here, and he's like, oh shit. He calls for help. They end up fishing him out of the ocean and dragging him back to the small island of Maleta. So from here, Joe spends like 5 days on this island with this indigenous tribe and this missionary and a couple of nuns, and he said it was the best time he had the entire time he was in the Pacific Theater. He said it was the best food he had. It was all fresh meat.
No
there was all
shit.
these exotic fruits, which I mean, again, farm kid from South Dakota in 19
Took a vacation, man. It's like, oh man, yeah, it was really nice. You know, there was no fighting, there were no guns, I could sleep soundly at night, there was nice food.
1920. He doesn't know what the fuck a papaya is. So this is the first time he's ever eaten all these delicious fruits. He's having a great time. They're hooking him up. He got to live inside of the chief of the tribe's hut the entire time.
What
They're
the
treating him
heck?
like royalty.
I am Chief Tanabuck. What names may we call you?
I am Miguel.
And I am Tulio.
And they call us Miguel and Tulio.
Eventually, the missionary and the nuns somehow end up getting word back to Henderson Airfield that they have this guy, and they send a Catalina flying boat out to Maleta, and they pick him up. So Joe shows back up to Henderson Airfield, gets right back to work. November 12th, the Japanese show up
Crazy,
again.
man.
But this time, it's like 60 Japanese planes, and they're launching a massive attack trying
Whoa.
to dive bomb American ships that are sending in reinforcements and supplies to Henderson Airfield. So Foss leaps into action, swoops down, shoots down 2 torpedo bombers and a Zero, and now he's out of ammo. So now there's nothing he can do. He's got to cut, run, go get more ammo, more fuel, and leave these ships as sitting ducks. But he
That
comes
is
up with an idea.
crazy.
Rather than turning back around and running, he goes up and circles around the ships super high up in the air, acting like he's a recon plane. And in doing this, Joe manages to trick the Japanese into thinking that he's a scout for a much larger American formation, and that this entire thing is a setup. These boats don't actually have reinforcements on them, and it's all bait trying to get the Japanese to send their whole air force out so that an even bigger American formation can come out and wipe them all out. The Japanese take the bait, they drop their bombs over the ocean, they turn around and flee, and Joe has just saved the day with literally no ammunition and just his wits. 3 days after that, he goes up again, shoots down another recon plane, and then Joe Foss is finally taken out, but it was not by the Japanese, it was by fucking mosquitoes.
Now, malaria is, of course, transmitted by mosquitoes. I brought some here so you could experience this. We'll let those roam around the auditorium a little bit.
Damn.
Joe ends up getting malaria. He's hospitalized for like a month. At this point, Joe could just go home and sell war bonds. Like, he's a war hero. He's one of the best aces America has at this point in time.
Taken out by
disease. Joe gets down.
disease.
He's got to go back and be the fucking dad for Guadalcanal, and that's exactly what he does. On January 15th, he goes back into combat after kind of recovering from malaria. And when I say go back into combat, I don't mean he like got back to the island on January 15th. I mean, he showed up to the island on January 15th and then shot down 3 more Zeros. After he lands and it's confirmed that he did in fact just shoot down 3 more enemy planes, he is informed that he is immediately grounded, and within a matter of like a week or 2, he is shipped off of Guadalcanal, and he has no idea why. It's not until actually making it back to the United States that he realizes that he was shipped back home because he had shot down a total of 26 enemy planes, tying the all-time American record set by Eddie Rickenbacker in World War I, and he is actually America's first ace of aces in World War II. And
oh my god. It's still insane to me that people will pull you out when you achieve something just to parade you around to get more people. It's such a wild and weird concept of how you utilize your resources. Because it's not the first video where this happens, and it's always so shocking to me. It's just like such a cultural shock, man. That you're like, yeah. Freaking recruitment. What? Like, it's to sell war bonds and make money. Yeah, like, it's so weird. It's so fucking weird. You have these good people, these amazing people at their job, and you're like, let me capitalize on that.
And he had no idea. He had no clue that back home for weeks and months, he had been on the cover of newspapers and magazines being hailed as one of America's greatest fighter pilots. He didn't know, and honestly, he didn't care. He didn't care who shot down the planes.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, right? Like, he's doing his job, and he's trying to, like, keep people alive and like, do his part. And people are like, yeah, we put you on a poster, we marketed you, now you have to sign autographs, and it's like, that's not the life he signed for. At least I don't think that's the life that he was signing up for, right? It's so fucking weird. It's like, I understand it. I can understand it, but it weirds me out. This behavior, this mentality, this way of using people like that.
Or who got credit for shooting down the planes. He was just trying to keep everybody alive and get everybody through this living hell on Guadalcanal. In the 3 months that Joe Foss and the Flying Circus were on Guadalcanal, his flight of 7 Wildcats is credited with downing 72 enemy aircraft, 26 of which came directly from Joe himself. And in doing so, he has apparently become too valuable to the overall war effort, so they've drug him back to the United States to parade him around to try to sell more war bonds to raise money for the war. And just like every other hero I covered that they do this to, he hated every minute of it and would have much rather been back in combat with his men. So in May of—
yeah, like, no fucking shit, Sherlock. What do you think he was doing it? Did you think he was doing it for the fame? It's like, it's infuriating to me, because it not only do you take someone from something that they're good at, you also pretty much tell them that what they were what their goal was, the reason they were fighting, the reason they were doing it, right? Like protecting the young people, inspiring, being there. Like, you're like, nah, this is for the greater good. This is overall for the greater good. And they're like, but I only care about the people in my close vicinity.
Of 1943, he is awarded the Medal of Honor and then sent on his war bonds tour. But there is a little bit of a silver lining, because while he's getting paraded around the United States and going on radio shows, he did get to hang out with his wife June the entire time, and she is now pregnant, and they're gonna have their first kid. Unfortunately, after a year of getting paraded around the country, he is deemed expendable yet again, and he is being sent back into combat.
See, this is what I mean! This is what I fucking mean, man! It's like, oh, well, yeah, we yoinked you from your rhythm, from your pace, from everything, and put you in the spotlight. Oh, and your fame is kind of like gone now. Okay, go earn it back so we can parade you some more. It devalues the fucking humanity of a person. It's like, why? Why do you do that? It's annoying. It's like, you're being used like a bitch. And you can't even say no. Use them up, go back and parade more. Yeah. Oh, God. On one hand, I once read ace pilot statistics during World War II. Germany had a lot more super aces at the start, but the longer the war went, the less good pilots they had, because the aces were always in battle and some died. Allies had less aces, but they forced them to get back and teach recruits. So the average was higher. Yeah, like, I can understand, right? Like, you're putting your very best to teach others so you can raise the level of everyone else. I can understand using people like that after a while. But at the same time, for example, not everyone is good at teaching. Not everyone is willing to teach as well, right? Like, not giving them the choice to do something and forcing them. It's kind of like, ugh. It's kind of like, ugh. Why? It's why?
Before his first child is born. February 1944.
Like, see, exactly this part. They took him away, and now as his child is being born, they rip him away from his firstborn child. He can't even be there when the child is born. They clearly don't give a flying fuck about him as a person. That's the part that's infuriating. The fact that you can see just how little they care about you as a person. You're just a token. You're just a trophy. That you're just a pawn that they use on the chessboard.
Joe is put in command of VMF 115, and they are headed off back to the Pacific. And this time, instead of flying Wildcats, he is going to be flying Corsairs. Now, when Joe went into the Pacific the first time on Guadalcanal, this was like the turning point of the Pacific theater for World War II. Up until then, the United States military had been getting their asses kicked, and they managed to hold on to Guadalcanal, and that was kind of the turning point. And the entire time that he's been out of combat, it has just been an onslaught of America kicking ass. And by this point in the war, the Japanese are on their heels. They don't have many planes and many good pilots left. So a lot of what they're going to be doing is search and destroy missions of hitting ground targets. And because of that, Joe is never presented with another opportunity to shoot down another plane to break Eddie Rickenbacker's all-time record. He is merely going to be the man that ties it. That record is not going to be broken until later in 1944 by the legendary Dick Bong, America's ace of aces. But again, Joe doesn't really care, because he never cared about the record in the first place. He was just trying to get his guys through it. That being said, I've already done an entire video covering Dick Bong, and the dichotomy between these two pilots is absolutely hilarious.
We're probably going to need to watch that as well.
The prodigy of a pilot. He just goes up there, out-finesses, out-maneuvers, and outclasses enemy pilots left and right every single time. And then you've got Joe Foss, the Marine aviator, and he is truly the embodiment of the Marine Corps. He's not going up there and out-finessing and out-maneuvering and outclassing them on every level. He's going out there with
raw dogging, man.
Ignorance, mag dumping as many enemy planes as he can find, crash landing his fucking plane, hopping in another plane, and going back up there again. The dude's not naturally gifted. He's not a prodigy like Dick Bong. He doesn't have a new state-of-the-art plane like Dick Bong did in the P-38. No, he's just hardworking, refuses to take no for an answer. You can't kill the motherfucker. He's going up in the air in what is now like an outdated, outclassed Wildcat going up against Zeros, and he's just doing what he can can with what he has, and somehow he manages to win every single time. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, after being in the Pacific for a while, conducting these search and destroy missions, he ends up getting malaria again, and because he got it again, it was significantly worse. He ends up getting hospitalized and losing a significant amount of body weight. He goes from being like 180 pounds to 115 pounds. It almost kills him. He's taken back to the United States. He has to see a bunch of different specialists, take a bunch of different medications, and by the time he recovers, the war is essentially over, and he goes into retirement.
I don't believe you.
Damn.
And from here, Joe Foss decides to go on what I can only describe as the world's greatest saga of side quests, maybe ever. So he gets into all the military stuff, gets back home to South Dakota, pulls together whatever money he has, links up with one of his other pilot buddies from World War II. They pool their money together, they buy a trailer. This guy's family lives on one half, Joe and his wife and his daughter live on the other half, and him and his buddy just go hunting for an entire year straight. During this time, he ends up having another daughter, and after a year of hunting, he gets that out of his system, and then his family starts having health problems. June, his wife, is having diabetic-related issues, and his first daughter, Cheryl, is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. So at this point, shit's kind of hitting the fan back at home. He realizes, okay, time to put the daddy pants back on and get to work, and that's exactly what he does. So Joe Foss and his war buddy that he's been living with,
do they go to a farm?
Year, who was also a pilot in World War II by the name of Duke Corning, they end up starting a crop dust spraying business together, Foss Spraying, and it becomes outrageously successful. So successful that they end up buying the local Studebaker franchise and open up Foss Motors as well. So now he's making money, he's paying the medical bills, he's a successful businessman. Korean War breaks out, he gets called back into duty. They're not going to ship him overseas, but they want him to come in and train all the new fighter pilots. So he goes off, he does that for a little bit, comes back home. From there, he serves in the Air National Guard and achieves the rank of Brigadier General. So he's a general, he's running two separate successful businesses. He's one of the greatest fighter pilot aces of all time.
What a workaholic, man.
He's a war hero, so people want him to run for politics. 1952, he runs the South Dakota House of Representatives. He wins. By 1955,
oh my
he becomes the youngest governor of South Dakota at the age of 39.
That's insane! What the fuck, man? It's like, so what are you? Yes. The answer is yes. What can you do? Yes.
At the same time he gets elected governor, his crop dusting business burns to the ground with no insurance, so him and his partner have to rebuild that while he's being the governor. So while being governor, he rebuilds his business and is still regarded as being pretty good at being governor the entire time. So good that he gets reelected.
Damn, that's impressive.
2 terms as governor, which is the maximum that you're allowed to do. During that time, he had his 4th kid and his first son named Frankie, and as his 2nd term was coming to an end, Frankie was diagnosed with polio. Luckily, Frankie pulls through, makes a full recovery from polio, but between the polio scare and his first child having cerebral palsy, he recognizes the problem of like kids getting sick is fucking horrible, and Joe likes to fix problems, so that's exactly what he does. So he goes and creates a children's hospital, the Children's Care Hospital and School of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But that's not enough, so he becomes the national president of the Crippled Children and Adult Society.
What? Bro, what? This dude's like, yeah, I have too much time in my life, so I will do everything. You can tell, like, he wanted to help and solve things and do things. He's a doer. Fucking crazy energy right there.
So he serves his term at doing that, and then shortly afterward, he's on a business trip, and while he's on this business trip, he meets somebody, and they're like, oh, hey, you've done all kinds of crazy shit. How would you...
You've done all kinds of crazy shit? That's an understatement. He's done more in his life than most people ever do. And that's by the age of, like, what, 40? It's like, he's living as several people.
Would you like to be the commissioner of the AFL, the American Football League, the direct competitor to the NFL, the National Football League? So Joe Foss is like, fuck it, sure, why not? He is the AFL commissioner from 1959 till 1966, and during that time, they became a major competitor to the NFL, at which point Joe Foss proposes the idea of like, hey, what if we had like a national championship game of the best team in the AFL versus the best team in the NFL, which eventually would lead to the creation of the fucking Super Bowl. Okay, I mean, I'm losing track, so this is more for me than it is for you, but just so we're all on the same page.
What the fuck?
Ace of Aces in World War II, Medal of Honor, war hero, successful business owner, governor, founded a children's hospital, served in a national children's organization, created the motherfucking Super Bowl, and he's still not done. Then, because he's like super into hunting and outdoor
He's still not fucking done. What the heck? Bro, those guys like, yeah.
Or stuff, he ends up getting his own TV show that becomes outrageously popular, The American Sportsman, that he hosts from 1967 till 1974.
He has his own
and then
TV
he goes
show!
on to be the president of the NRA, the National Rifle Association, during the 1980s, and then he finally retires and gets to live happily ever after. But before he would pass away, he would make headlines one last time in 2002 at the age of 87 years old. In 2002, 87-year-old Joe Foss, war hero, governor, philanthropist, businessman, TV show host, NFL
What did he
Super
do?
Bowl creator Joe Foss was boarding a plane to go from Sioux Falls, South Dakota to Arlington, Virginia. Don't know why. If I had to make my bet, in the twilight of his life, maybe he was going to a particular cemetery that's kind of famous to see a lot of his dead buddies at the end of his life. So he boards the plane, or at least attempts to, but he gets stopped by the TSA.
So I guess the
Why does he
question
get
is, after
stopped by the
watching
TSA?
this, what have you all done with your life so far?
I've all done with your life. Wow. Wow. Don't crit people like that. I've actually done a lot with my life. I'm happy with it.
Because they think that his Medal of Honor is a fucking ninja throwing star and don't want to let him keep it.
Seriously?
I just
Are you for real? Are you for fucking real? They stopped him. The TSA stopped him and didn't want to let him keep his Medal of Honor. The fucking disrespect, man. Those people deserve to be punched. I'm like, how little fucks can you give? Like, that's infuriating.
I want to shit on the TSA, but it's 2002 and 9/11 just happened, so like I understand they're at a heightened level of everything. So I'm
they're still as idiotic even now, and this is 2025. They're probably worse now. I understand the heightened security, but like, that's a Medal of Honor, sir. Pretty sure that's not a terrorist.
I'm just going to blame it on young kids not knowing literally anything. You know, like you see the internet videos of people calling the cops because somebody thinks a $2 bill isn't real and they think it's counterfeit. And then the cops show up and the cops have never seen a $2 bill either. It's like that. Okay. So just for the record, for all the young kids in the audience.
No, he just crit me with that. The cops don't know either. Oh my fucking god, no.
This is a fucking Medal of Honor, okay? It's not a ninja throwing star.
Regular cannon you say? No, says I. Ninja stars.
Good old Joe Foss, though, after being detained for an hour and being forced to strip down to his underwear on 3 separate occasions while his Medal of Honor is being passed
Jesus
around like a hot potato
Christ.
from supervisor to supervisor that thinks that an 87-year-old war hero is trying to smuggle a ninja star onto the plane, isn't upset at all, takes everything in stride, and just moves on with his life, and ultimately passes away the next year in 2003 as one of the greatest men of all time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Smokey Joe Foss, one of the greatest fighter pilots in American history that you have now heard of. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Quack bang! And another video! I freaking love his videos. They're always like such good storytelling and always a pleasure to just watch and to listen to and learn a bit more about things. So yeah, thank you for recommending it. And YouTube, if you managed to stay up until the end, I appreciate you. Please go buy his merch. It is adorable. It is cute. And as always, if you can, like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps me. And we're close to the 100K, which is kind of shocking. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of shocking. But as always, I appreciate you watching, being here, commenting, and I shall see you for the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this is my 2.0. I had the Pixel model debut recently, and we have Mimic Boots. Yay!